On your mark. Yeah, I don't want you to try to reverse though. Get set. Go. Wow, that was a clean run, Chase. That car did not touch the rail.
So it's a beautiful day this morning. It was a good weekend, a very busy weekend.
Yeah.
We had our car show and went well. Had a good turnout, and the weather was just perfect. Don't want to take too much time today on our breakfast soapbox because I got some brass Model T goodies to install. This is a moto meter. Actually goes on the radiator cap with these little wings here. Brass headlights. So that'll look kind of cool. We've got other brass goodies we're going to get first, though, I think, before. And so maybe I'll just doll them up and get them ready to put on, but not actually put them on.
And I got to replace my brakes or something with my Mustang because they just did something weird this weekend.
Yep, and then we broke the water cart that we use for the Burnout box, so I've got to fix the wheel on that.
We just got a list of things
Packages
to do. We got a lot to do.
to ship out. So we probably just want to do a kind of a quick video here, but something we really did want to discuss because one of our issues has been this faithful slave thing. And I don't know if I should even comment on some of these people.
The commenters.
That like have zero comprehension or really don't watch the videos in order to understand a little bit of what's going on. And they say silly things about, especially about faithful slave. Anyway, this commenter sent me this link to another video that's really not getting the play that it should. I think when we clicked on it a couple weeks ago, it was like at 2,000 hits, and it's been up for a long time.
Yeah.
And it really needs to have more attention drawn to it. So we're just going to do a quick video on that. So we're just going to summarize it, basically, and then give you the link, and you can go watch it.
Yeah, we encourage you to watch it and get it from his perspective.
Yeah. So anyway, it's all based on this brother that's down in Australia. Now, and he starts off going into how Australia is a country that's rather forward-thinking because it's basically a country that was made by prisoners that were shipped off from England, and they wanted to protect their rights or however it goes. So a little bit about that background. So he talks about how they've been very forward as far as children's rights and human rights that they take the lead in. And with that, the children's situation comes up because they have what's some sort of a license that you have to get in order to work with children. So if you're a religious leader, if you're a social worker, whatever it is that you're doing and you're going to be working with children, you have to get this card or this license in order to be working with children. Well, this brother was noticing that the elders didn't have such a thing. They were basically just skirting the law on this issue. And this is pre-Australian Royal Commission with Brother Jackson. So he was noticing they were not living by Caesar's law. So he went up and he's thinking about that, and he knew somebody also that had child abuse, sexual abuse. So he decided to do something about this. So he went to the police, and they did nothing about it. They basically blew him off. So he started doing his own investigative work, and he went to the police again because they weren't doing anything about it. Basically, they just told him, they blew him off and told him, listen, if you keep doing this, we're going to press charges against you for interfering with an investigation, basically. And the guy pretty much said in his mind, I don't think you're actually doing an investigating, so I'm going to push forward. And he did. And the police ended up not pressing charges because they didn't have any proof they were investigating, so here he's doing it all on his own. So the guy's name is Brother Unthank. That's pretty funny. Yeah.
Stephen
Unthank. Talk about an unthanked job. But here's what he does. He has to do this all on himself. So he goes and he investigates, and he asks basically a couple of the elders in the congregation, do you have this license to work with children? And they basically say that that's for bus drivers. So in other words, he could take it that, no, they didn't have this license or this card that they're supposed to have. So he notes that. And in Australia, they have a provision, like they would in the United States for a citizen's arrest, they have a citizen's prosecution, basically. You can bring the charges, but you still have to go through all the loops of doing it appropriately. So in other words, he's got to be investigated, which he did, and then he's got to file a report and submit that to the prosecutor, which would be himself, and then he has to look over that and approve it, and then file it with the next prosecutor, which again would be himself, and then he'd have to finally submit that to the courts. So it's kind of humorous that he has to do it all the way along by himself. So the situation is when he goes to do the lawsuit, he has to file charges against someone. So he obviously picks the governing body to file charges against. Then he picks the local congregation, but he also picks the faithful slave. Now, the faithful slave, you have to pick somebody in it. So he just picks some little old lady from the local congregation, which it doesn't mean anything. But you can't sue the entity of the faithful slave. It's too ambiguous. So he had to pick someone because they're in charge of the assets at the time. That's what the Doctrine said, that they were, as far as Matthew 24:45, they were placed in charge of all the master's belongings. So he picked that individual. Now, he couldn't sue the governing body, and he knew that pretty much because they're out of the country. So he's got left the local congregation and the faithful slave as being represented by this one older sister. So he gets into the courtroom.
A sweet little old lady.
And he said it that way. But he said that it wasn't a harassment to her because she would never even know about it, pretty much. She was just named for the purpose of suing the faithful slave. So he gets into court, and the situation is he's also suing for defamation, is one of the main things that he's also suing for. So he's suing for this situation of them not obeying the law and having this child's license to work with children, basically, and also defamation against him.
Of character. Because
he's, defamation of character. That's another thing that is very forward as far as human rights goes. With Australia, they have very strong laws against.
You cannot slander or tear someone down.
Yeah. And there was accusations being thrown about him being apostate. And that would link to the scripture that talks about him being mentally diseased. So he goes to court, and he runs, by the way, JW Leaks, I think it is.
I think that's right.
The website. So he goes in there, and of course they play their theocratic warfare, which in other words means lying. This is all based on the scripture, where it's all based on the situation where Micaiah says, we'll link it, but the reality is that they'll use, the angel came down, and the angels are all basically raising their hand, and Jehovah picks one who is not necessarily telling a truth, and so they'll use that to defend the fact that they can lie in court or whatever else. So what's interesting about that scripture, though, scripturally speaking, our noon siren. Because breakfast is like that for us.
Mm.
And then I get dogs as well. This reminds me, I lived in an apartment complex when I was in Centralia. I was in Washington, living in Centralia, Washington, working for Shelton Structures, and we were building the Tacoma Dome glue lamps. Anyways, I lived in this apartment complex for a little while before I finally got a house to rent. And every time the sirens would go off, it was like a mentally...
Ambulance and police and not noon bell.
Right, just normal sirens. But in the complex, there were a lot of mentally handicapped individuals, and they would just go off. I mean, the whole apartment complex would be like, woo, 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 woo. I mean, all over the place, the apartment complex. Anyway.
You lived in that complex?
Yeah, I lived in that complex.
That's too good. That's too good. You've never explained it that way before.
Oh, man. So I got out of there as quick as possible because they didn't need anybody crazier than them.
Okay, back to our breakfast.
No, so then I moved out of there, and I got this house that was right next to the railroad tracks. I'm thinking, oh, man, this place is a great deal. I got a house to rent, and it's right, got a single-car garage I can work in. I think I was in my early 20s. And it was like the train would come through there, and that guy, that conductor would hang, or engineer, or whatever it was, would hang off of that horn like he was an orangutan, because that thing would be coming through there at like 3 in the morning. Wah, wah, and he'd hold that thing for, oh my God, I'd jolt out of bed.
That was so much better.
Yeah, I'm sure which was better, the train horn at 3 in the morning, or all the siren copycats.
We're losing people here. We've got to stick to the script.
So
we don't have a script, but
so the guy gets. This is what happens when we don't have a script. This is
we're
why we need a script. Nobody mock us for having a script. So the guy gets into court. He runs JW Leaks. He's suing for defamation is one of the things. Well, in the Bible, they were using that scripture in the Bible about him being mentally diseased. Not that they would say, oh, that guy's mentally diseased, but they'd say he's apostate. And that's the way JWs do things. Everything is not set out front, but there's this long list of linking things that puts you into that next category or that next statement or puts forth this idea, so they get it said without actually saying it. So you're an apostate. Well, and then in another article they'll say apostates are mentally diseased. But you just have to trace the dots in order to get to that point. Anyway, so he's doing this in court. So you're saying that I'm not an apostate. So he's got his local elders up there, basically, in the congregation, and they're saying, no, you're not an apostate. He runs JW Leaks.
So apparently, Jehovah's Standards changes in another country?
Exactly. Depending on what Caesar's law is, I guess Jehovah's Standards can change, because they talk about, that's what we do, disfellowshipping, and we disfellowship apostates, but we're not going to call you an apostate if we're going to get our butts sued. So it's just ridiculous.
Now play the game.
Yep. So anyway, the elders are saying he's not apostate. The representative from the branch gets up there and says he's not apostate as well. So, and then he talks about saying you're mentally diseased. That statement just comes from the Bible. He's saying, well, basically, there's other Bibles that don't have that in there. When you look at all the other Bibles, none of the others have that terminology in there. So he's bringing out all these other Bibles that have different terminology that don't bring that out. And then he says, in fact, it's so much not in the Bible that the New World Translation doesn't have it in there. Now, an interesting dynamic is because of the subpoena or whatever else that he had going on, he had gotten the brand new silver bullet.
The silver Bible.
Sent to him via email. So he had a copy of that before anybody else did, except for that branch representative. The branch representative had it because he got an early copy, but nobody else had that yet. So he had made this statement in the courtroom. In fact, that terminology is so much not in the scriptures that the new revised version of the New World Translation no longer has that in the Bible anymore. Mm-hmm. And kind of a hush fell across the room. And he said he could hear the two defenders of Watchtower. The one lawyer turned to the other and said, he's lying. And the other turning back to him and saying, no, if he says that it's in there, Stephen doesn't lie. So that guy that was that branch representative that was a witness was now in the courtroom in the seat, and he said he had somebody else back there watching what was going on in the courtroom, and the guy slid that Bible out, looked up, and it wasn't in there, and quietly slid the Bible right back into his briefcase. Because if Stephen would have known he had it, he'd have subpoenaed it from him right there. But he didn't even know that he had that silver bullet at that time. So that's an interesting dynamic. So now he is deemed legally not an apostate.
His website is also.
Yeah, it's another thing you brought up. So JW Leaks is not apostate. No, that's not an apostate website.
Yeah.
So he's not apostate. JW Leaks is not apostate, and he's got that from his local congregation and the branch representative.
Mm-hmm. So they wouldn't get in trouble. They had to say that.
So apparently, as Tiffany mentioned, apostasy just kind of depends on your country you're in, and whether or not you can get busted for it. As with everything with with witnesses, a lot of their doctrine gets set by legality. That's what controls their doctrine. Jehovah's channel is leading us. Yeah, through the governments. So that's what they listen to, is law. So
only when they're in the hot seat.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly. Yep. That's
Otherwise,
when they change
they'll skirt it whenever they want. Whenever they feel like they can.
think that it's their power and they'll do what they want. It's very Catholicism in that way. You know, they think they're above the law. We have God's law.
Yeah.
Until the law comes down on them. What's it say? It's there if you're doing good to support you. If you're not, there's a reason why it bears the sword. And so then they run like chickens instead of standing up for God's standards. No, they run like chickens. So.
And that is an interesting complex to think, because the teaching is we have Jesus as head. I mean, the scriptures say Jesus is head of the congregation, but they claim Jesus is the king right now. He's ruling. It's a spiritual paradise.
And he's head of the organization, not the congregation. Congregation is a group of people. Organization is an entity. Well, the way they have it. Actually, organization is a process. It should be a process for organizing the congregation. But it's not that way. They pull hierarchy.
But what I'm saying is, since the teaching is since 1914, Jesus has been enthroned as king. And so they look to their king, Jesus.
Claim.
Yeah, they claim to look to Jesus as their king. And so they feel like, well, then the governments aren't my authority. Jesus is my authority, until they're in the hot seat. And then all of a sudden, now they have to obey the laws of the land.
And I would even recant part of what she said there, in the sense that they claim that Jesus is their head and they claim to do what he says. But the reality is, they just use whatever they do to claim Jesus is behind them.
Yeah.
Which is quite the difference.
Yeah.
It's quite the big difference, because then when they do wrong, they just say, oh, well, you know, Jesus talked about you have to eat my flesh and drink my blood. And people just ran away because they didn't understand, as if their mistakes and their hemming and hawing and back and forth on doctrinal issues is Jesus Christ just not being able to make up his mind.
No.
When that's what they make it seem like with Jesus. Jesus said what he said. And yes, many people didn't know what he meant and therefore ran away. But those who wanted to know came and questioned him. Does the Watchtower allow you to come and question them about
Absolutely
their doctrinal
not.
back and forth and to and fro's?
Absolutely not. I'm just saying they use that idea so that way they can have control of the situation when it's good for them.
Yeah. So where'd we leave off? We're in court.
He's not an apostate, and then the mentally diseased is not in the new Silver Bible.
Yep. So now he's not deemed an apostate. So then we move on to the next phase of it, which is this little card they're supposed to have. Again, the governing body is kind of taken out of the framework of this. But because he's now suing the local congregation, he didn't individually name the elders there. He said he protected the individual elders from that, but he did name the local congregation and the faithful slave. And here's the interesting one. This is the big one. So because the faithful slave, by their admission in doctrine, owns the assets, they own the assets, he can sue the faithful slave for all of Jehovah's Witness assets.
Which is a pile.
Because they're supposedly owned by this collective slave.
Mm-hmm.
So they go on to see this pretty quickly, that if not in this court case, every other court case, they could literally lose all their assets because some individual who's partaking gets sued and they can claim all the assets. So they're like, oh man, we need to revise this doctrine, and now. So the lawyer stands up in court when they pretty much, he's got it nailed down. And the female lawyer, which is interesting, they have her do it for whatever reason, and I'm not sure what that is. So it's just an interesting dynamic given the submissive role women are supposed to play. Just as he's making his statement basically about ready to bring it to a head, she gets up and says, well, you can't sue them because it's just a theological arrangement. Now, at first, it's like, what's that supposed to mean? But he illustrates it like Santa Claus Or like the Easter Bunny. You can't sue Santa Claus and the Easter Bunny because of getting bad chocolate or something. They don't exist. So basically, they're saying you can't sue them. It's make-believe. They don't exist. So they now had to revise the whole doctrine because of this one instance in court, because they were going to lose all their assets. So we go back to this idea that this whole thing is just make-believe. And what's even more with that, as far as the doctrinal changes go, that's why they come up with they haven't been appointed yet. Because then the governing body, if they're the faithful slave appointed right now, then they could get sued for all the assets. But if they say they aren't yet appointed, well then we're just future appointed. Right now we kind of received a pre-appointment, so we don't really have all those assets yet. Those assets will be given to the faithful slave and all of the rest of the anointed after Jesus Christ comes again, that final appointment. See, it removes them from all liability. So it's a skirting of, the doctrine is made simply to skirt legal issues. That's all it is. What's so funny is that 15 years ago, when Tiffany and I were going through this whole date only in the Lord thing, and they were talking about, well, the faithful slave says, and I'm like going through it, reasoning on this, and I'm saying, no, not everybody says that. Just they say that. What they claim is the representative of the faithful slave says that. And I actually wrote this to the elders. It was probably in my file that they threw away, which I wish they wouldn't have, because that was a defending of my faith to them. All these letters that I'd written them over the years. So,
but what's frustrating is that I don't want to cut you off. I know you're kind of on a roll, but you could get disfellowshipped for this, and it's not even a real.
Yeah, it's a made-up doctrine. It's a save your assets doctrine.
And yet, people, if you pull their card on that, you're disfellowshipped for it.
So what's ridiculous about this whole thing is that you go through those articles, and it's the reason it's the 2013, and then a year later they came out with "Who Really Is Your Leader" thing. Those two articles.
Yeah.
And when they came out with those two, what's interesting is you can go through that, and it's just like it's so easy to question and blow holes in, and then all the damage that it does to a lot of other doctrinal issues that they have. It's maybe, we should almost do that article, sit down and review that article and show you what I mean. But this makes sense. But it reminds me of, I don't remember which prophet, where Isaiah or whatever, because a lot of people have been mentioning the scripture where it talks about the man of lawlessness.
In Thessalonians.
Yep. And how he sits on the throne, proclaims himself as a god. And it reminded me of the scripture in one of the prophets. It's either Isaiah, Jeremiah, I don't remember which one. But it says that Jehovah basically puts a hook in his nose. Kind of reminds you of what it says that they put a hook in the jaws he talked about of one nation to drag them where they didn't want to go. And the hook in their nose and dragging them where they didn't want to go. And that's the way this almost seems. Because it's like, you are going to do this, and either the nations are leading them in God's righteous way, or forcing them to go a direction that they kind of don't want to go, but because of their pride, forced. They'll take it on.
Yeah.
And it's interesting dynamic in the times that we live in as far as biblical prophecy and all those things. So I guess it's we have to wait and see, as they say. I don't want to get dogmatic on it, but I will tell you this, because of those commenters, some of those commenters who don't have the comprehension of a Swiffer, the reality is they are beating their fellow slaves. These individuals are showing that they are beating their fellow slaves. And we're going to do an entire video on this, faithful slave / evil slave, because people want to assign it to one group. We don't fall into that. We never have. And the reason why, if you just go to Luke, it's pretty simple. Anyway.
That will be in that next. That will be in that video.
Next video.
Maybe not the next video, but
I think it will be the next video.
Upcoming video. Will it be the next one?
I think so. Anyway. So I think that's just so hilarious how they were just totally drawn anywhere the law goes. But that is a lesson. That is a lesson to us. It is a lesson to everyone out there. They will not listen. They pull their hierarchical, big-chested cock attitude. And I mean cock like a rooster. That you've got an injury, they'll peck at you. Whatever they think that you're damaged in, oh, they'll peck that. Is that a wounded spot? Is that a wounded spot? Oh, let me peck it and see. Let me see. Is that a hard spot for you? Oh, is that difficult for you? Well, we're just going to keep pecking it because we're in charge here. We're in control. And they just act like roosters in the house. They're a bunch of cocks. So the reality is, though, that's what they listen to. When the farmer comes in and kicks in the hen house door, that's what they listen to. And that's the only time that and I grew up with chickens. Matter of fact, there was a rooster that was that way, and it would attack me every time I came in to get eggs. I mean, sit up in the rafters of the chicken coop and come down. They've got the little spines on their arms, and he would attack me with those things. I'd literally have to box this stupid rooster to bam, 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 and punch him in the head and everything else just to get to the dang eggs. You know, I was like 15, but anyway. That's what they listen to, is being forced into things with legality. Forced into things with legality. That's the only thing they listen to.
Because they don't want to lose their power. That's very important to them.
Yeah.
Their authority and their hierarchy.
Anyway, I think that's it for today, unless you got something else you want to share.
No, we'll have that video linked or a way
in the description.
Or a way for you to go find it. I just looked a little bit ago, and it just said there was like 2,600 views. There should be way more views.
There should be like 26,000 views on that.
There should be a lot more.
Yeah, I mean, there should be tons more on that.
The audio, I have to say, the audio on the it's not the best. You have to really strain a few times to understand what he's saying, but you'll still get it.
And that Tiffany said, well, why do we even need to do a video, summarizing it? And I said, well, because it is long. In order to grasp those points, it might help just to have a quick summary. So hopefully this helps somebody a little bit, but definitely go watch the audio recording. It's not a video. It's actually an audio recording, but it's on YouTube. And it's worth it. It's worth it. Is it true? I would think so. And another reason I want you to go watch it too, because we didn't do it chronologically correct. We just brought out some of the main highlight points. So we recommend go listen to it. It's worth it.
Yeah, I guess the last thing I was going to say is I think I had mentioned to you about it is Watchtower likes to make themselves seem so mystical and spiritual, and it's from God. And what was the other thing I said? That was
Jesus is leading us.
God's Spirit is leading us, or however they want to say it. And it's sort of like if you've ever seen The Wizard of Oz with the man behind the curtain. It was all just a sham, and I don't know. One of the commenters said, "Yeah, you'll blow a gasket. It's amazing."
Yeah. And that's not to say that everything they do is a sham or everything they believe is a sham.
The idea of them being spirit direct is what I'm saying.
Yeah. So that again, that mystical illusion that they put forth, it's sort of like I remember this, there was a brag about ourselves video, organizational accomplishments, and it was talking about the hurricane. I think it was in Haiti. The branch office was still there because we were led by God's Spirit when we built this building, and they weren't led by God's Spirit, and that's why their buildings were destroyed. So how about some of the other buildings when you do the aerial thing that they weren't destroyed? Because you're right, some of those buildings were. But why not just say the nuts and bolts of it? We used God's Spirit in the sense that we didn't take any shortcuts. If they said it was for a hurricane area, we made sure not to cut any corners, and we made it so that way it would be sturdy. That puts the nuts and bolts into it instead of just saying that, making it all mystical and junk. Anyway.
Yeah, I don't like that at all. But
So, because the other ones, were they led by God's Spirit? Yes, they were. No one can say Jesus Christ is Lord without doing it with God's Spirit. That puts a little bit of finite twist on things, doesn't it? Even a worldly person can be led by God's Spirit in that way, because God's Spirit is truth. Whatever's truthful, whatever he causes to become, whatever works out well, has success, that is God backed. Even a person who is against God, like Balaam, for example, could bring to fruition success based on God's principles and be using God's Spirit. So it's not this mystical form that runs around. Anyway, I'm sure that'll be future videos. So, what do you want to say? Close off.
I don't really have much more to say. We just wanted to keep it short, but highlight that this video should be more important than it is.
Yep. So go watch it, and the rest will be about our crazy weekend.
Yeah.
It's always a...
Yeah, so we organized this car show, and we'll put some text in. We haven't edited, obviously. I haven't even seen some of the footage.
It's full of excitement, mayhem, injury.
Oh, yeah. It's so dramatic.
Until next time, enjoy. Like, subscribe stuff.
Yeah, so like, subscribe, share, you know, all the things.
This is our car bash car. Go back and take a peek at it. You know.
Just take that.
Now go in it. This is it. Just an Intrepid. Something that was out at Cordell's place when he bought it. But we're going to bash it, have sledgehammers and hammer it. But we can't get the thing to roll because we don't have the key. So we're trying to strip out the ignition quick.
So one of the things we did was we got that spare out of the back because it's like practically brand new. We don't want anybody beating on that. And while we were in there, there's like a huge nest, like a mouse nest, not with mice. Well, there was one. We caught him. He's right here. Poor little guy. We're gonna take him out to some field because I can't stand killing them, but they can't stay here at the shop because we don't like mice in the shop. If they didn't have disease, they're so cute. But I made a little joke because at the convention, I guess they said, at least what I've seen on YouTube anyway, they said somebody had claimed that the apostates are like vermin. So I just named him Apostate. Just for a few minutes. We won't probably never see him again, but yeah, poor little guy. Can't see on my screen. That says car bash. Decided to put some flames on it. It's ridiculous. Oh yeah, that's a beauty. Are you writing car bash on the other side too?
So I finally got the trophies done, the rest of them for our organizer's choice, and best rat rod and whatever else we make up these things. This is a Ford one, just on a water pump, so it spins around. GM, pretty simple, starter, timing cover, or timing gear. This one kind of did some funky things with just faces. This is our best Mopar one. We got the M on the top. Brake shoes for the bottom. Broken cam shaft, or no, cam rocker shaft. The GM at the top is made of a brake line. Let's see, what do we got here? These are timing chain covers, by the way, or timing chains, I mean. And a couple of them are loose enough you can move them around and make funny faces with the guys. But some bolts for eyebrows. This one's on a water pump. It's seized. We just get old car parts that are ratty and whatever else. A couple of these you have to be really careful with them because they're contagious. At least I think they are, because you know they've got plugged noses. Our show week, one of the things we have to do is get the pre-registration shirts in. We try to push the line so that way there's not a bunch of them. I think we've got about 10 of them this year so far, and they usually creep in the week of. What we have to do is we go through and we find, for instance, this one's a Beaumont, and so we have to, a Beaumont is a Chevelle, so we've got to find a Chevelle in this catalog. Camaro, Chevelle, it's a 68. I think it's right here. So then we pick that number out, we have to put it on the slip, and then turn it in and they print it out for us. So it's basically their car on a polo shirt for them. So this is the first chance I've had to vlog. We've been running our fool heads off, but we got set up. This is our Burnout strip here. Got a couple of people arriving already. We're dragging down our water cart, and the wheel broke off the rim. Isn't that nice? So I'll winch that up when I leave. Tiff's got the food gazebo set up. And we just, Quint's shining up his Ferrari. We brought a few cars down, not too many. Had some problems setting up the stereo, so I wasn't able to bring as many cars down as I would have liked, but oh well. And that's Quint's cannon, by the way. He fires off every time we change an event. We're in for it more for the display than the times. So, we ready down there? On your mark, get set, go! He really cares about the times. Give a round of applause for being a good sport. He got it done a half an hour ago. That was awesome. Smoking's bad for your health. Literally got it done a half hour ago, he said. Said, I don't want to do it. You're going to make me do it, I'm going to break something. He didn't, it went easy.
Yeah, the southern boys with the lifted toys make me blush when they come around. And I've said it before and I'll say it again, I'm from this northern town in North Dakota. Yeah, the city boys with the flashy toys make me smile when they come around. But I've said it before and I'll say it again, I'm from this northern town in North Dakota.
Yeah, that was awesome. That was a huge echo. How big was that one?
It was a big one.
How big was that? And that was 538. Well, that finishes off for tonight. Thank you very much for coming out. Thanks for all the participants. And again, come down tomorrow for the Rendezvous and Rod Run Car Show.
Yeah, the Cali boys with their surfy toys make me wave when they come around. And I've said it before and I'll say it again, I'm from this northern town in North Dakota. In North Dakota. Yeah, yeah. North Dakota, where the Badlands call, home is called home to me. North Dakota, where the river's deep, water rushing over me. North Dakota, wild and free. There's North Dakota, rough rider in me. Now we're from a town you probably never been. We're from the north, but we're not Canadian. And I've got a boy who I enjoy that understands where I'm from around. And I've seen him before and I'll see him again, 'cause he's from this northern town in North Dakota, where the Badlands call, home is called home to me. North Dakota, where the river's deep, water rushing over.
Feel free to move those grandstands where you want to.
Wild and free.
Yep.
There's North Dakota, rough rider in me.
But we have to, when we're doing our burnout, it's down there where the cart is, way in the distance there. Then we drag all that stuff down last night. We usually don't get shut down till about, we don't finish up till about 2 o'clock. Last night I think it was 1:30. Move all this stuff down and reset up. And then we're down here at 7 a.m. again. Hello. Over here is our car bash car. This will take a swing out with a sledge. BBQ. Trophies. Tiffany does locally raised sirloin hamburgers with fresh cut fries. And then we've got a pit crew competition. We give away a chopper bicycle every year. We do 1/64 scale drag races and tricycle races, and we got inflatables sent down here, and it's still pretty early in the morning yet. And there's more food vendors down here, and this is where we set up for Music Fest. They've got Tigirlily coming here this year. It's a North Dakota band. You can look them up. Pretty good. Different businesses will be having sidewalk things going on. And they block off the streets down here for the concert, and that's where the pavilion is, you might say. So that's your basic walkthrough.
Okay. Denton, let's have you run against Evan. The tricycle race will be as soon as the pedal pulls are done. Try to work with everybody here. On your mark, get set, go. Oh wow, that was a good clean acceleration. Nothing you can do that. Chase gets the win there. All right, we have Kinley, and we're back up to Tyler Wood again. On your mark, get set, go. And Tyler puts that one down pretty handily. Thank you.
Little rat rod there. So can you ride a wheelie?
He's like, I don't know.
On your mark, get set, go. Nice race, guys. Nice drop. Good drop. You both did awesome. That was great. So who won that one?
What's he put down, James? What's he put down, yeah?
I saw 158 something on there at one point. I want to say like a 158.6. 415's on 3.5 pace or 5 pace. I want to say 5 pace.
You say when, and I'll keep an eye on your real time.
There's a guy from Bismarck that was supposed to be here. Started driving 10 miles out of Bismarck, blew an amp, turned around.
Now we got the pedal pulls going on.
We might be here a while, folks.
If you've never seen these are pretty fun.
place, so just hold it right there. It's recording right now. Maybe you should be over here. I guess we got to go in there, up and over, and then back down the slide, right?
That's the concrete to win.
Your whole body has to. Evan, get out of the picture.
Okay, guys, hurry up. Leave my way.
Yeah, I'll do the countdown. 3, 2, 1, go!
Oh, he's gonna win.
Nope, that guy's gonna win.
Tyler.
Tyler's gonna win. Wait, Brianna's brother?
Oh my gosh, no. Woohoo!
You know he's in there now.
Victory!
He went over there.
Oh, he is stuck. Oh, there we go.
Where are we supposed to go?
You can't go through that tunnel. There's another way around.
Okay, let's try it again.
Okay.
Now, how do you go? You go which way?
Okay, you just go straight, and then once you see the incline, go on that.
Oh, okay.
Go on the incline right there.
Turn, go around it.
Don't go through into the big tube.
Okay.
Okay, 3, 2, 1.
Go. Come on, Uncle. Come on, Tyler.
Go, Tyler.
I'm rooting for Tyler. Come on. Nope, not him. Oh. 2 in a row. 2 in a row.
Where'd he go?
2 in a row. He is probably stuck again.
He's rock climbing.
Then I'm gonna be racing one of you two.
Where'd he go?
Oh my gosh, he might be lost.
I'm not sure where he went.
I think either he's on the steps.
Unless he's asking someone to where to go.
Okay, well you.
Where's he at?
Apparently Chad needs help. His knee's out. Oh.
His knee fell out of place. His knee's out. I don't know what that means. He's in there.
He's over there. He's around.
Go ask someone to help him.
Roll in already. Get set. Go. Oh boy, look at that. And there's the win. Give them a round of applause. Those are a little out of their realm. All right, on your marks. Get set. Go. That's right. Put the pedal to the metal. Watch the road, not your component. Not component, opponent.
Go.
Watch the road, pedal hard.
Catch me if you can.
And the cop car wins again. I fought the law and the law won. On your marks. Get set. Go. And we've got a pretty good. Oh, and it's a wipeout. Give Noah, but you all right, hand? Yeah, you got a big smile on your face. You're okay. Give Noah a big hand. All right, Noah, we're gonna let you run again. This time we'll have you run against. Turner. Set. Go. And I hear a little wheel spin in that right lane, but it doesn't matter. He's still gonna pull it off. Oh, another wipeout. This is gonna be great video. I'm gonna go viral. And they're both out of the hole. Hallie's digging hard. Oh! Get set. They both left at the same time, even though it didn't say go, so we'll just let it run. There's the win.
With a
She rips it away.
The configuration motor versus inline. On your marks. Get set. Go. Oh, she's got plenty of wheel spin and she's putting it down, but what will... Oh, she lets off a little too soon. And it's a little slow for Tyler. Will he be able to bring it back? Oh, man. I need help. Get set. Go.
My 4-speed dual quad positive traction 409.
All right, we're splitting it. We're just gonna call that a go. We've got wheel spin big time from Tyler. He's trying to change his motor to the inline formation. It did not work. Go. And they come out of the hole pretty even again. What's gonna happen as they get down to the end? Oh, you all right, Marcus? On your marks. Get set. Go. And on round 2 the cops and rodders. The rodders are winning this one so far. The pedal is moving. And there's the win. So this one fought the law and the law didn't win that one. On your mark. Get set. And go. And we've got a pretty even match. Oh boy. Another rodder victory. This is a drag race. Where are you going, NASCAR man? And Laura.
You know, unless you want it.
Go. Oh, comes back out from nowhere for the victory. Marks. Get set. You guys ready? Go. Uh-oh. Oh, he cuts him off. What do you think this is, bump to pass? He goes in for the win. On your mark. Get set. Go.
I'm just doing a quick
They
walk.
both come out of the hole pretty good.
I gotta get back.
Oh boy. Turner puts it down. All right, back up to the winner's side of it. Lily. That's 2 of 3. You've got to win 2 out of 3. On your marks. Get set. Are you set? Make sure they're on the forward stroke there. You guys ready? You both ready? Set. Go. Did somebody cheat? Well, you gotta make 2 or 3 anyway, so. And there's the Rotters' victory. All right, turn them around for next round. Get set. And no, go back. Go back. Wait till I say go. You ready? Set. Go. And they come out of the hole. And there's the victory. You ready, Dyson? I can tell you're ready. On your mark. Get set. No cheating the light. On your mark. Get set. Go. And they both come out of the hole. Dyson is undefeated so far, and he looks like he may pull it off. He does. Switch lanes and do it again. Yep, it's best of 3. And if you make it a tie in the end, we'll make it a best of 500. Get those legs really tired. On your mark. You ready, Sean? Dyson? Set. Go. And Sean pulls off a little wheel spin, but comes out of the hole hard. And he still doesn't get it with cutting him off. You guys want to do one more just for fun? Prove it round? No, well, you already won, but you know. All right, Sean, keep it in your lane, buddy. If Dyson wins this one, he's went the whole thing without being defeated at all. This one's just for no marbles, just for fun. On your mark. Get set. Go. And let's see if Dyson can make the prove it round, and he does it with ease that time. Good job, Sean. You made it for the final 2. Well, we'll tabulate trophies and go confirm, and then we'll do awards. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And thank you all for coming out. We'll see you again next year. Don't forget, we've got the Music Fest later on tonight, so enjoy the evening and the rest of your beautiful day.